Okay, today in algebra we talked about quadratic functions. This is the first time we've talked about this, so it's a new topic. You'll want your calculator out to be able to look at some things with me. Quadratic functions have the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, meaning there's an x squared term for sure. All quadratic equations have an x squared term. A, B, and C in that case all represent just numbers. They can be the number 1 or they can be other numbers. B and C could be 0, and that would make them go away, and it could just be ax squared. That's also a quadratic, but it has to have something squared in it. The parent function of this, so the original, which all others are derived from, is y equals x squared. The graph of a quadratic function is called a parabola. It's important that you get used to that term and familiar with it. Let's go ahead and look at what this looks like in our calculator. So on your calculator, go to your y equals and hit x squared and graph that. And as you can see, this is a parabola. It looks kind of like a U shape. It goes on and on and on forever. So let's go ahead and graph a sketch of that over here. And if we look at our table by hitting second graph, we can see some values there as well. I'm going to start at -2 and do -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. At -2, my value is 4. Then 1, 0, 1, and 4. And if you think about it, that comes from this table. That should also make sense because -2 squared is 4, -1 squared is 1, 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, and 2 squared is 4. That's what causes me to get this graph right here that's called a parabola. Quadratic functions are non-linear. Okay, so cross out that linear and circle the non-linear, meaning this is not a line, it's a curve. The vertex of a parabola is the point where the function reaches a minimum, like in this one, or a maximum. And the line of symmetry goes through the vertex, meaning this is symmetrical. Always one side mirrors the other, just kind of like a butterfly, or some people said in class something like a circle, or your face, or your whole body, one arm on one side, one on the other side. So that's all I mean by symmetrical. There are some rules we can follow to be able to figure out things about our equations. The first is the effect the coefficient A has on the graph. So remember, coefficient is just a number in front of. A is always talking about the one in front of x squared. If A is positive, the graph opens up and there is a minimum. If A is negative, the graph opens down and reaches a maximum. So on this first one, our A is -3. Since A is negative, we're going to expect it to open down. Let's go ahead and double check that in our calculator. So go to y equals and put in -3x squared plus 2x plus 8. And as you can see, that one opens down. The opening is pointing towards the bottom. That's what I mean by opens down. On the second one, I have 2x squared plus x minus 4. The 2 is positive, so we are expecting this one to open up. Let me show you that one on the calculator. If I type that into my y equals and hit graph, you can see that that one does open up. If A is a whole number, like not 1, but any other whole number, the graph will be narrower. If A is a fraction, the graph will be wider. Okay, so whole number, narrow, fraction, wide. So let's go ahead and look at our graph again. Go back to y equals and put x squared, just plain x squared in the first part. That's our original. And we want to compare that to 1/3 x squared. When you put the 1/3, you're going to do 1 divided by 3 in parentheses, and then x squared. And it's a fraction, so we are expecting it to be wider than the original graph. Let's watch what happens here. There's our original, and there's our second one, and our second one is definitely wider, so that's how it compares. The next one is 5x squared. Let's change that in our calculator. Take out that stuff right here, clear that out. 5x squared. It's a whole number, so we're expecting it to be narrower. There's our original and our second, which is indeed narrower. So as you can see, our A affects does it open up or down, and is it wide or narrow. The next thing we want to see is if I'm adding or subtracting a number to the end. That would take the place of the C in our original function. So let's go to our y equals. Let's leave x squared in the original and put in the second x squared minus 4. There's the original, and there's x squared minus 4. As you can see, it has shifted down. And it has shifted down 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should make sense because it says -4, and here it is down 4. On this one, you should suspect that it's going to go up 3, but let's go ahead and put that in our calculator and confirm. That plus 3, there's our original, there's our new graph, did move it up 3. The next thing we wanted to learn about was how to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So if you go to y equals, let's put in, clear everything else out, put in negative x squared plus 6x minus 4. Be careful here that this is a negative sign and not a minus, and that this is a minus and not a negative sign. That's really important. Okay, when we do that, we're going to hit graph. It's negative, and so it opens down, and there's a maximum. To figure out what that maximum is, that's our vertex. I'm going to hit second trace, maximum. Then I'm going to find a value to the left of my maximum. So that would be like here, because it says left bound. And then you can see it says right bound. I'm going to find a point to the right and hit enter. And then it says guess. I'm just going to hit enter one more time. And it'll show me that my maximum is 2.999, which is basically 3, 5. Since that's my maximum, my vertex is x equals, and then you just write what x does equal, and that's x equals 3. That's our axis of symmetry. On the second one here, let's go ahead and put that into our y equals, clear out what's already there, 4 minus 3x squared. We're going to graph it. It also opens down. And you should be able to kind of eyeball this one, but let's go ahead and find the maximum again. Let's find this on the left of that maximum, and on the right of that maximum, and hit enter one more time. And that value says 1.1561 e to the negative 7. Anytime you see that e, that's just the same as saying 0, so don't be tricked by that. If you see an e, that says 0. And y equals 4. That means our axis of symmetry is x equals 0. That should kind of make sense when you take a look at it. Let me point out here that if you're doing to the left bound and the right bound and you're getting error, no sign change, you're not actually going from left to right. Left is anything on this side of my original graph, and right would be anything on the other side. I've got to actually change on each side of the maximum or minimum for that to happen. Okay, the last thing we want to do is to find the roots. This is what your homework is about, so this is really important. Roots or zeros are anywhere where the graph crosses the x-axis. So where does it cross the x-axis? That's where my zeros are. We're going to do this using our calculator, so you're going to put x squared plus 2x plus 1 into your calculator, hit graph, and you can see that it just barely touches right here. We want to figure out what that value is because that's our 0. So we're going to hit second trace, and we're going to go where it says 0. We want a value on the left. Now, this also happens to be the minimum, so we're going to find something on the left of the minimum, and then to the other side, to the right of the minimum, or the 0, and hit enter. Shows us that that value is negative 1, 0. Again, I'm practicing some rounding techniques because that's 0.00001. Okay, let me show you one more that is not the maximum or minimum. So let's go y equals, type in your equation, x squared plus 9x plus 18, and hit graph. And as you can see, there are 2 zeros at this point, and they are not the minimum. So I'm going to find 1, 2. So I'm going to go second trace 0. Bring my cursor so it's surrounding that first point. Now, there's my first 0. I need to find something on the left, which in this case is above. And then I need to find something on the right, which in this case is below. So I'm going to hit enter, enter, and guess. And then I have my first 0, which is negative 6, 0. To find my second, I'm going to do it again. Second trace, 0. Something on the left this time would be something on the bottom side, and hit enter. On the right would be something on the top side, hit enter. And your last thing is to guess. And that's negative 3, 0. And now I have both pieces. Your homework assignment today is on the back of this. This is A4, so go ahead and write that. Be sure to fill in your name right here. And then the first 6 are done for you. The last 8 you have to do using your calculator. So be sure you do those first in class since most don't have a calculator at home. Good luck. Let me know if you have questions.